So what are some of the ways that we can measure hard work numerically?
Of course, your GPA,
Good,
and then how many hours you study a day.
good. What else?
So I got too far. How much time? No, I can't see that on the computer because might not be doing work on the computer. Mm,
What are some other ways of measuring hard work? Some of y'all may have worked hard one time, like in the class before. What did you do?
how many pages you read?
Good. What else?
Mm,
Like how many times you came to class? Like actually came and sat in class, I guess.
Say that again, Diamond Thomas.
How many times you came and like actually sat in class?
Good. What else? What are the different ways that we can measure academic hard work numerically? We talked about how many pages you read. That I think we can make a conclusion that if Kisana has read 100 pages so far, and Diamond has read just 10 pages, one has worked harder numerically than the other. If Kisana has come to 5 classes and Diamond's only come to one student has worked harder than the other. If India has put 4 hours of work into her studies to this point in the semester, and Maya's put in 10 minutes of work, we can give a numeric measure into which one has worked harder. What are some other ways? Think outside the box. What are some other ways that we can measure academic hard work?
How focused a person is.
I don't know what you said.
How focused a person is.
No, I don't know that there are many times where I may not have been focused as I was putting in 4 hours of work. That's harder to measure. The only person that will know how focused you are is you. But I can look at you and see how long you sat down and studied. What are some other numeric ways?
Your grades? Your grades?
Potentially, but not always. There are a lot of classes on this planet where, and even at this university, believe it or not, Diamond, where you can definitely get an A in this class and you would not necessarily have to put in any work at all. So just because you got a good grade does not at all show how hard you work. I think that's oftentimes one of the things that students get confused by. That because they got an A in Dr. Dumbass's class, and that they think that that's the work required in a real class. So no, GPA and grades measure results less than they do hard work. The work is the process that leads to the grades. How can we measure that before we get to the grades? How can we measure hard work?
How much homework you get done, I think.
Okay, so if one student completed 10 assignments and the other student completed 2 assignments, again, we can put a number on that to determine which one worked harder. What are some other ways?
Like when they turn their work in, like how quick they do their work.
Potentially, but no, not necessarily. Like that, if India submitted her research question on August 26th and you submitted yours on September 3rd, it doesn't necessarily mean that India worked harder. So punctuality can be, but not necessarily. All right, so let me ask y'all this. So like y'all have taken my classes before, all of y'all. What are some things you got to do in my classes to generally do well? Y'all have named some of them, but not all of them.
Read.
Y'all named that. Y'all already said that.
Do your own research.
That too, but no.
Interact.
Okay, we can put good. That definitely does help. So I can measure that India Cheney has made 38 comments in class so far. Maya has made 1. So that could be a measure of their hard work, but they could just be shy like Diamond. So we want to be careful about that. What are some other things that we can use to measure?
Office hours. How many times?
Excellent, India Cheney. There we go.
Oh.
If you have come to the office 20 times, that usually results in a very different outcome than a student who's come by 1 time. So again, like I'll be hearing from students, Kisana, I worked hard, and I'm like, wait, how many office hours did you make? How much did you read a day? How many times did you answer questions in class? What's some more ways? Usually when you come to the office, India, what are you coming for?
Help with my work.
And what does that entail?
Asking questions.
No, not in the office. Potentially, I'll come back to that, Diamond. I'll come back to that, but that's not what I'm referring to here.
Oh, you looking at research, helping with.
What are y'all usually bringing me?
Rough drafts.
Yes. So if Diamond has brought me 5 rough drafts and Kisana's only brought me 1, that can be a measure of one working harder than the other. So at the end of the semester, and it's like, look, how many times we can count, like we keep records of this. How many times have you come to my office? How many times have you submitted a rough draft? How many times did you make an appointment with the librarian? How many times did you make an appointment with the writing center? How often did you download the lectures again after class? How many days did you read and how many days did you do nothing? These are all things you can put a number to. Now, everybody, Maya, is going to tell me in November that they worked hard. But y'all will know what those actual numbers are. And generally I will too, because again, it's no mystery about this, Diamond. The people that do those things the most in abundance, the people that bring in the most rough drafts, that ask the most questions in class, that read the most pages, that download the lectures the most, that visit during office hours the most, that visit the librarians the most, that email them the most to get help, the students that get the most feedback on their rough drafts, those are the students that generally do better. But everybody will claim that they worked hard. But in science, Kisana, we can use measurements to determine that. So even a qualitative thing, because again, students come to me and other professors by saying that they worked hard because they think that that's something they can't put a measure to. And everybody has their own measure for what hard work is. I'm telling y'all some objective measures. 1 hour of reading really is 1 hour of reading. 5 office hour visits really are 5 office hour visits. Now, what's intangible is that some of y'all may be able to get this stuff straight, India, just by coming by the office 2 times. Kisana, you might only need to submit 1 rough draft. So these are not perfect measures. But we have to be very thoughtful about how we measure qualitative data, but there is a way that we can even put a value on that. Does this make sense to you all? So the qualitative data, again, most data we can put numbers to. It's harder to, so I can measure the amount of police brutality incidents. I can measure the number of police complaints that were issued by citizens. I can measure the number of people that were shot by the police in a given year. What's more difficult to measure is how rude a police officer is. It's harder to put a number on that. What's more difficult to measure is, was this person really pulled over because they were Black, or were they pulled over for some other reason? So there are many qualitative things that we can observe but we have to be very deliberate about how we measure.
Properly in place while visiting the library.
A couple more points before we close for the day. Are there any questions and comments so far? Did y'all write down some of the examples that I gave of how to measure hard work? Because I did not have y'all do that for no reason.
Oh, yes.
If by some chance you did not write it down, this will be posted for you. You can look at it again, but we weren't going through this discussion just for our health. It's to get you to understand these concepts a little bit more deeply with things that you already are familiar with, which is the concept of hard work. But keep in mind, we can measure hard work, Maya. Everybody says they work hard. Only a few people are being truthful, scientifically speaking. Or let me say accurate. So as we talked about, the final thing you're going to have to do here, India, is the research paper. But along the way, you have to do a research proposal. That comes before the paper. All of these things that you see here are going to be part of your final paper. So here are the steps that you're going to follow as we go through the course, Diamond Thomas. And ironically enough, it's laid out exactly where you can find these things and learn more about them as we go through the class. I'll leave this up here for you all for just a second for you all to take in. So these are the various components of your research proposal. Kisana, having formulated a research question and hypothesis, the next thing that you're going to need to begin to do is reviewing the literature. One of the things you heard me mention, Diamond, is an example, a way to measure your hard work in this class is how often you have made appointments with the librarians to get help with your literature review. I understand, India Cheney, that there is a lot to do and cover in this class. This is why the class is structured in such a way, Maya, where you don't have to do all this stuff at once. You just can't like take off the first month and a half and do nothing. If you do that, then again, this class is probably not for you. You have to work in phases. So the phase that I want y'all to begin working on over these next couple of weeks is starting to collect sources that help you answer these questions. These sources, India Cheney, are going to include qualitative and quantitative data. India Cheney, what's your research question again?
My research question is, what factors lead to juvenile gang membership?
Good. As brilliant as you are, India Cheney, there has been somebody that has thought about this question before you. So you need to go and read up on some of the sources and some of the people that have begun to ask that question and see what they found. They're going to give you numbers that speak to that question. They're going to give you some qualitative information to help you speak to that question. The librarians are a good resource to help you locate socially scientific sources that help you answer that question. No blogs, no Facebook posts, not even a whole bunch of news articles. Academic sources. Does anybody know by chance what's the next assignment in this class? Today you submitted your research question and hypothesis, and all your work was
bibliography.
Say it again, India Cheney.
Annotated bibliography.
Do you recall what that entails? What is the annotated bibliography?
Your sources and the description of each source that pertains to your research question.
Excellent. Somebody just wrote on my screen.
Oh.
Anyway, so yes, yeah, get your stuff, man. What's going on? So you're going to review the literature first, India Cheney, and we'll talk about that in much more detail about how you want to go about going through the literature. But Deshaun, that is not an exercise you are expected to do by yourself. You need to get help from the folks in the library. who are very good in terms of being able to do social research, and you need to get help from your professor. This is not something that you want to wait till the last minute to begin to explore. So we'll leave it there for today. Actually, let me go back and review before we close out. We're finally done with chapter 1, a very long chapter. Keep in mind, Deshaun, that the focus of this chapter is human inquiry and science. Human inquiry and science. What this speaks to is that humans are curious about all types of aspects of human behavior. We use science to learn about human behavior. We identify, Maya, the three things that you, main things that you want to be able to understand at the end of this chapter. We want to be able to decide what's real. Is it real that Black people are victims of police brutality at higher rates than other populations? Or is this something that we just imagine? We want to be able to explain the fundamental nature of social science and understand the basic options for conducting social science research. This is where we talk about your methods, Maya Williams. We discussed again that the reason why we want to use social scientific research, Deshaun, is that historically information has come from, been disseminated in the name of tradition and by authority figures. So for millions of years, it was believed that the world is flat. They believed that because that's what my mama believed, that's what my grandmama believed, that's what my great-grandmama believed. So if they told me that the world is flat and everybody else keeps saying that the world is flat, then it must be. There are many things that throughout human history, everyone has agreed on is true, that we find out is not true. Again, let's go back. We're trying to identify the different ways that people decide what's real. So nobody had really tried to observe whether the world is flat or not. Since everybody else said that the world is flat, then it must be flat. One of the things I want you to be mindful of as young people, Diamond, is all types, there are many ideas that are disseminated, and your generation is disturbingly lacking in questioning like information. And almost everything that y'all see and hear, y'all be fucking believing. It's amazing. So even people like Kyrie Irving in 2020 believe that the world is still flat. What are you gonna do? If everybody's agreeing about one thing, I would really encourage you to question that, because there are very few things that is universally true. Because authority figures told you that slavery was the natural state of man and that God meant for some class of citizens to be slaves, much like God intended for women to be second-class citizens, many people believe this without testing it for themselves. The NFL, like again, will try and deny, Maya, that the brain image, again, science tries to do what? What does science try and do again? It tries to measure cause and effect. We begin to see that many people who with long NFL careers began to have brain injuries after they were done playing. The NFL executives, the authority figures, Deshaun, in the NFL, they tried to say that, hey, these brain injuries have nothing to do with people playing football. It's probably just a coincidence. That didn't seem very satisfactory. But for many years, those type of ideas were promoted. Over time, science allowed us to see. So you mentioned MRIs before, Deshaun. MRIs was a newly developed technology that actually allows us to go and see the condition of the brain internally. And they saw that there was very difference in the brain composition of older people who play football compared to other professions. That somebody my age that had an NFL career will have the brain activity of somebody that was like 80, 85 years old. Science has allowed us to understand what caused that effect. We have to be very careful, though, to make sure that we make accurate observations and that we don't overgeneralize. Sometimes because we have very limited observations, we make really broad claims. Like all Hispanics are rapists. This is not true. The president made this claim because there were some cases of illegal immigrants that have raped people. That is not the general experience of most immigrants. That's what's called selective observation. So you want to avoid looking at the deviant cases, Deshaun. The foundations of social science, again, are logic and observation. So make sure that you go through and test your hypothesis, Kisana, that they are logical and that they fit in something that you or somebody else has observed in some part of social reality. Because without that, without beginning to do the research, we're making unfounded claims. So we can have a hypothesis, which we hope become a theory, but that needs to involve data collection and data analysis. So again, much of what you're going to be doing over the next few weeks, India Cheney, as you go through your early sources, is beginning to collect data from those sources. One of the things that we're going to talk about in coming weeks, Maya Williams, are the methods. Keep in mind, right, you have an untested hypothesis that your boyfriend is cheating on you. You have some logical and observational reasons for feeling this way, but you have different methods at your disposal in which you can find out for sure if this hypothesis is really a theory and has some merit to it. So the methods, what are some of the different research methods again? Does anybody recall? What are some various research methods in social science? Anybody? You got to unmute yourself.
Oh,
What are some
participation, observation.
Say it again.
Participation, observation.
Good. Participant observation. What are some others?
Interview.
Good.
Self-administered. What is that? Self-administered.
You're probably talking about surveys.
Yeah, that and.
Hey, can everybody hear me right now?
Yeah.
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 So this is one of those questions where today on September 3rd, I can have some mild patience if we're having trouble answering this question. I'm going to ask it again several times because it's a really important question. If you all don't know the answer to this question in 2 weeks, everybody needs to know the answer to these questions. It's not a tough question. If everybody doesn't know the answer to this question in 2 weeks, this is the type of thing I'm going to get really pissed off about. Because what it shows me, Maya, is that you're not putting in the work, the hard work that we talked about before, to learn these things that I'm telling you is really important. All of you all are very intelligent. So if you don't know this, India, the only conclusion I'm going to come away with is that you have not put in the work to become more familiar with these methods. But this is really, really important. If you don't know it today, not a huge deal. If y'all don't know it within a couple of weeks, that's going to be disappointing. Some additional methods include experiments, secondary data analysis, case studies, and several others. What do you think we're going to learn about these methods as we go along in the next few weeks?
Method summary.
Yes, they're going to be a method. Yes, you have a method summary assignment coming up due. I think that's actually due before the annotated bibliography.
Oh, yeah, I think it is.
So what are some of the different methods again?
Case study, experiment, survey, participant observation.
2 extra credit points, India Cheney. Very good. Some of y'all, right, I just asked y'all the question and gave y'all the answer no more than 60 seconds ago, and y'all could not remember that. For one, you got to really ask yourself some hard questions about how you're processing information. That's abnormal for like a 20-year-old person. Like if you can't do that, you may seriously have some learning disabilities if you can't process information that you heard just 60 seconds ago. You also just might need to improve your attention span, which can be done. But listening is a very important skill that can help you a great deal in this class. 2 extra credit points, India, for doing so. So once you got your data, you also got to analyze it. That's going to come later in the semester. And hopefully you can become a theorist, a systematic explanation for observations that relate to a particular aspect of life, usually explaining some level of cause and effect. We do not believe that juveniles are joining gangs for no reason. So we want to have a theory on why that happens, but we need to have data to support the theory. Our theory is going to look at not an individual juvenile, India Cheney, that might be an exception to general patterns. You're going to look at the group. So you're looking at juvenile gangs all across the country, as I understand it right now. The variables that you looked at, again, that there may be variants that explain why one group behaves one way while another group behaves another. So your independent variable, again, in India's example, and again, this is why engagement in the class helps. India Cheney, if she takes advantage of it, India, you're getting a lot of direct help on your paper that you can put directly into your paper just because you spoke up in class. Now the key comes, India, what kind of work are you going to put in after we shut down this lecture? That's where the key comes in. But you can all do yourself some huge favors by attending lecture and posing your research into some of the things we're going to talk about here. So the dependent variable is joining juvenile gangs. India Cheney, one more time, what are the 3 independent variables that you're looking at so far?
Profit, you changed it to profit. So profit, male guidance, and what's the last one?
Relieve violent crime.
Protection.
Protection from violent crime.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk in coming weeks to like shape those variables. And then you know what else is probably going to happen, India?
Mm-hmm.
As you start doing your research, as you start doing your lit review, some other variables are probably going to come to mind.
Yep.
So keep this in mind as we go along. Use these as examples to help guide you. Be able to make a distinction between quantitative and qualitative data in some of the sources you look at. And then be mindful of what all of this is building to, a research proposal and a final paper. Are there any questions or comments before we leave for the day?
No, sir.
The lecture will be posted onto YouTube and e-learning shortly. Now, we're leaving out of the kiddie end of the pool, okay, Deshaun?
I got you.
We going strictly into Adult Swim from here on out. I have very little patience under normal times, Maya Williams, for ignorance and laziness. I can deal all day, Deshaun, with you not knowing something or understanding the concept very well. If you can't make a distinction between survey research and field research, I can be patient with that. If you have not taken the time to learn those things, I'm incredibly impatient with that in general. But that's even more so in the times that we live in, where social scientific research is really important. And it's really important that Black people in particular become omnipresent social scientists. There's so much that's going on in this society right now that's adversely affecting Black people. And quite frankly, Deshaun, I'm probably gonna be good, dog. I'm an old man. These problems that are going on in society, these gonna affect y'all motherfuckers. Y'all need to be paying attention to this stuff, and y'all need to begin to be very thoughtful about the solutions to the very many problems that you're getting ready to inherit, Kisana. You have to, again, approach the world in a very different way. So Black people who don't read, who don't have, let me rephrase that. Not just Black people. Black people just can afford to do these things to lease Diamond Thomas. But people who don't read, people who don't discern information, people who don't have intellectual curiosity, discuss and repulse me. I be hoping that them people can get COVID or something. I know that sounds really mean. I don't know what to tell you. But ignorance and misinformation has done a lot of harm to our society, and Black people are literally dying because of ignorance and misinformation. Y'all finna contribute to that?
No.
I'm talking to y'all.
Nada.
No.
Nada.
I hope not, especially because most people, Deshaun, They get to be ignorant and misinformed for free. Y'all are paying money to get educated. So let's get really educated. Let's not just get high GPAs, Maya Williams, because that's not very impressive. We'll continue this discussion next time, but we will begin chapter 2. Y'all have a great day.
Dr. Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
Hey, when we get out this call, can I talk to you for like 5 seconds? Like
You
5
can.
minutes?
I'll send you a Zoom. I'll send you a Zoom link in a moment.
Me too,
all right.
Dr. Muhammad.
Dr. Muhammad, I was about to say I'm gonna email you when we get out of here.
Okay,
I'm
for sure.
first, Dr. Muhammad. I don't got nothing to do with them.
You
Oh
are,
wow.
Deshaun.
Okay.
Send me emails. I will get Zoom links for all of y'all.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, y'all.